Hello, 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 and welcome to the Drag Race RHAPup here on reality TV RHAPups. I'm your host, Liana Boraas, and we are here to talk about Mother Tucking Winners. That's right, episode 8 of Drag Race All-Stars. And I am, of course, not alone. We have our fabulous panel here for you today to help me break down everything from this episode. First, let me welcome in a man who our resident actor, Aman Adwin. Aman, how are you?
Welcome back, ladies. Now, based on your Santa School for Girls performance, welcome back, ladies.
Let me put the batteries in. Hold on.
Yes. Glad to be back for another episode of All Stars, All Winners. I've got a couple of thoughts for this one. So glad to be back, as always.
Good. Yes. Okay. Well, we will get into all of that, but first, let me welcome in the wonderful, the illustrious, the woman who's going to be leading the boat parade tomorrow, and I'm very envious of her, Beth Dixon. Beth, how are you?
Doing well, just trying to make sure that, I'm ready to go with such a responsibility as to leading the boat parade on the small lake that my parents live on. But no, I'm doing well. It's this was a funny episode, little silliness, a little Christmas in July. So yeah, let's celebrate.
Yes.
I realized as I said that, I was like, no, that was our pre-show conversation. Beth is, as she mentioned, leading the family 4th of July boat parade or whatever. It's like it's a totally random thing. Yeah, the classic boat parade that we're all familiar with.
The one that is a national-wide one that
That's right.
Check it out on the RHAP Instagram story.
That's right.
Yeah, do a takeover.
Because I probably would. I'd just be like,
yeah, I'm sure she'd go
True
for it.
story though, about this is actually legit. A couple years ago, we were leading the boat parade and we came across like this little peninsula area and there were a couple heavy petting, we'll say, on top of a water trampoline.
Ooh.
And then the entire boat parade just went by.
Wow.
And so they were just kind of sitting there like for I don't know how long, but we had about 25 boats behind us, so that took a while.
Oh my gosh, that's so awkward.
Party and a show. Hey.
Hey. Okay, well, let's talk about this party and a show. That is our Maxi Challenge this week. As we discussed, the queens were starring in the soon-to-be cult classic, although we can debate whether or not it will become a cult classic, Santa's School for Girls. And as it was described, it's part Christmas movie, part horror film, and part Mean Girls, sort of. So,
Yeah.
Aman, you're telling me you had thoughts. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, the acting challenges are always sort of, you just never really know what you're gonna get a lot of the time. Some of them can be very good. Some of them can be just a little bit too corny. Some of them can just be somewhere in the middle. I enjoyed it for the most part, but I did feel like I wasn't getting enough Mean Girls. Maybe that's just me being biased. I got all the Christmas that I really wanted from this, but the main thing that I sort of was interested in talking about was Janixa Bravo. I felt like I don't know if she was the right person for this challenge.
Ooh,
I felt like I appreciated that the queens were so appreciative on varying degrees. I mean, you had Evie Oddly that was just so transfixed with all of the direction that she was receiving. And then you had people like Monet that were like, oh, girl, like, let me use this as a real opportunity to seek some work after this. And the same thing with Shea. But as much as I have an appreciation for Janixa, I have been introduced to her, as RuPaul said, as the director of the acclaimed film Zola. And if you guys know anything about Zola, it is basically it's a 200 and something tweet treatment of a slut Miami thriller. Okay, that's the best thing that you can describe it as. And I was so excited when the movie came out back in 2020. I had like a limited release because of the pandemic, but I was so excited about it because I had been hyping up this tweet thread for so long. And I enjoyed the movie, but I felt like it was a little artsy fartsy. It lacked the zest and the comedy and the thrill part of it that came along with reading those tweets. Yeah. So I felt like some of that happened here with this acting challenge, because I was like, I think that she obviously knows what she's doing, but is she the right person for something like this on Drag Race?
She was interesting because I actually really thought she was one of the best directors in terms of trying to get queens to do get something different out of them. But I agree that I don't know if the artsy fartsy, as you're saying, like style of Zola, maybe that's her style of directing, aligned with such an outrageous challenge. I do think that she was able to get a few things out of people that made it
Oh,
better than what they
definitely.
were trying to go for. I think that was great. If I could be honest, I just think the script writing was horrible. I think that there wasn't enough, like normally
There's that as
we see a
well.
lot of double entendres. Normally we see like really funny references. I didn't get like any of that in this challenge. So I really think that at the end of the day, there was only so much the actors and Janixa could do.
That is very true as well. The writing did leave something to be desired. Let's just say that.
I think you guys are both touching on how I felt, which is there's something wrong here. I don't know what it is necessarily, but something about this just isn't working for me. Like, I mean, it was fine. I watched it. But like I didn't laugh and I wasn't really entertained, and I wasn't really like, even the twist at the end where, you know, Viv's character is the one that's the murderer, and then the interviews afterwards, I don't know, there was just something disconnected.
Yeah, the interviews felt
it.
so I didn't know that this was like a recap, sort of like I didn't know this was like a post-mortem on a mystery of murders. I didn't get that until like, so when Trinity popped up giving an interview to the police or to whoever, I was like, oh, okay, all right, I guess that's what this is.
So yeah, right, exactly. So okay, so overall plot, let's try to see if we can recap the plot. All right, that seems like a great place to start.
Oh god, we're gonna be here for 40 minutes trying to decipher it.
Okay, so Shea is the Katie Heron character,
Correct.
right? The new girl, Cat. Let me call you Catty. That moves to the school, that starts the school because she was homeschooled, right? So there's that mean girl connection. And then she has the mean girls, the nice girls, sorry, in this, that are her friends. And they go to class. And then the Viv murders people.
Yes.
Am I missing anything?
So
nope.
I mean, that's it. But what I thought was like, why did she kill the art teacher when the art teacher was having them paint Santa? Like it sounded like she was going after people who weren't
into Christmas, right?
Into Christmas.
Like it was the candy corn lady, right, that she murdered.
Who had
then she also murdered because she had pumpkin decorations.
Yeah.
But then it was interesting because Raja's character, Scrooge, who is supposed to be like the Scrooge, right, who doesn't like Christmas because she has the Halloween decorations. Did she get murdered? No. Right?
The lights went out.
She tried.
And then Jinx died. Like it should have been
Scrooge.
Yeah. If the whole, So what Beth is saying is true, is that it's like the motivation behind Viv's character was to kill the people who aren't into Christmas. We need to see that. We didn't, I don't know. I just like, I felt like the whole thing, it just didn't work. The whole thing didn't work for me. And
who was she calling whenever Evie like told her, oh, by the way, I saw this person celebrating Halloween shit? Who was she calling if she was the person?
Ghostbusters.
Well, I think she was calling the other teacher. There was another teacher that was buying the Halloween decorations. Is that the beginning?
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, it was odd. So you know what, Beth? Maybe I'm being a little too hard on Janixa. Maybe.
No,
I still do feel like I was glad that Ru was there because I felt like normally we're always like, oh my god, Ru, it's not that funny. But I was glad that he was there to sort of provide some levity, and some of the direction that he was giving, I was like, okay, yes, this is more in line of what we need. Like, you know, telling Trinity, girl, just be dumb. Like, you love being dumb. Like, you don't have to be too overly analytical about it. Just be dumb. I felt like that was a little bit more better served than Janixa saying, I would love it if you would. Does that cum line do something for you? Like, because I would love the energy to be more in unison. Like, girl, just tell them to be funnier. I don't need this whole thing.
The amount of times they tried to make a cum joke and it just didn't work in the script like, "Oh, come all ye faithful." Also, the way that Raja said that drives me crazy.
It was rooting
And
for
so
us.
I was just like, "Oh my God." Like, there was just so many things there that like the queens were trying to do something with it, but it just wasn't working out because again, the script writing was just awful. It was awful.
Yeah, I do see Aman though your original point because what was the one that Evie had the line about shaving and because Santa might come in the bushes or whatever
trim
that
our
line
trees in case Santa comes, something like that.
was. So Janexa like had her hit the first part of the joke, but then the second part she wasn't really bothered with, so you lose the come part. So then it like
Right.
that didn't work, and I felt like that delivery could have been better, and if she had given more feedback for that. All of that being said, I mean, she seemed like a pleasure to work with because no one likes to be told what to do. And so her approach of like, does this speak to you? You know, it allows them to have their own interpretation, which I think works when you're working with really great actors. But sometimes for this,
with trained actors.
I just don't know if I felt like maybe she was a little too overqualified for this. It's like asking it's like asking Steven Spielberg to direct an episode of Drag Race.
If that ever happened, it'd be like Shaving Private Ryan would be like the. They would come in and do something like that.
Oh my God.
Right?
Apollo
Like,
69.
Shaving Private Ryan.
Apollo 69.
Okay, so yes, all right. So I'm glad that we're having this conversation about like the fact that just like everything, it felt like everything was just off a little bit, right? And I think that then in totality, that makes it just not work well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just go ahead, Beth.
I was just going to say, I just think that this week it was hard to judge purely because I think so much of what, like, even someone who, like Jinx, normally this is an overacting challenge, but because the script was so bad that almost took place of overacting itself, things that were overacting just felt even worse, which is why like the Vivian who struck a balance of actually having like a character and having these dramatic moments without being too completely over the top felt okay, but someone like Jinx who is just doing this the entire time like maybe would have worked in a different script. Like I just felt like was too much this time around, and that's saying something because normally people are doing too little.
Yeah, I feel like the strategy of it all sort of took over the narrative of the acting challenge more so than just having fun with the challenge. Because she's like, oh yeah, I wasn't happy about getting this role, but I'm just going to extend as many lines as I can. And I think she found a POV to do that. But I don't think it necessarily works. So I feel like this challenge really does exemplify. Sometimes it's just about what roles people get. And if you have a smaller role, it's just going to be harder for you to win. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is. Like in this particular challenge with this writing, I felt like it was sort of hard for anyone without a bunch of lines to really showcase their talents. Because it had the potential to go really south with Jinx. I thought that she did okay. I wasn't necessarily there for all of the character choices. Like I felt like you went from like you're supposed to be the Gretchen Wieners, but you're also an alcoholic, but you're a shopaholic as well. But you also have like this demon side to you. So I felt like she looked at everything on paper and was like, okay, how do I do Christmas, Gretchen, and horror all at the same time? And I felt like it just didn't land for me. But that might not be her fault. It just is. It just was what it was. She tried to do what she could with it. And I guess you'd much rather see someone do that than just like sort of like flounder and like pull a Nina Bonina Brown and be like, I should have been Black China and I didn't get it. So
I should have been Nutmeg.
So we can actually go. I want to go through the roles and talk about each of the queens individually and maybe what they could have done, because I do echo what Aman is saying, that I think that there were some roles that just had a higher chance of winning than others. Like doesn't matter what you do with the role. So Trinity, because she won last week's challenge, she has the ability to assign the roles. And so she tries to match the queens up as best as possible. Although, you know, the Viv gets what she wants because she gave Trinity the first choice of fabric, and Trinity and Monet are in an alliance. So Monet gets what she wants. But in general, tries to match people up as closely as possible. And so as a result of this, the Vivian gets the like headmistress principal kind of role. I don't remember what her character name was.
Nutmeg.
Nutmeg. Yes. And this obviously is one of the larger roles in the cast, and also ends up being the villain, so allows for sort of that turn. And the Vivian ends up, you know, in the top 2 here because of the choices. So Beth, did you feel like that was warranted?
I definitely felt like the Vivian was the clear top of this challenge. Again, I think that she was able to do a little bit of overacting without making it seem like way too ridiculous. She had a lot of clear inspiration, like we saw from, you know, the various characters of, you know, Faye Dunaway and Mommy Dearest, and you had a little bit of Donald Trump in there that we know that she could do really well. And she just was able to kind of, I think this is where you can kind of use your British accent, because we in America tend to use British accents a lot in movies for villains. And so I think that she was really smart to say, even though this never came out in a confessional or anything, I think that this was a smart move for her. I'm in America, and this is mostly an American audience. Here we go. So I think that that worked out really well. I thought that she played it with it really well. Definitely was the clear top for me.
Yeah. I thought she did a pretty good job. The ease in which she slipped into the Donald Trump and right back out of it was great. Like anyone that can, like, you know, put on accents and throw them in and out, I find that just so cool. So I like that she did that. And yeah, she was doing a lot with the physicality. She was really hamming it up, but also was very contained as well. Some of the character choices, like the one that Michelle cited, and just like whenever she dialed the number, she just like smacked the phone. Like I thought that she was very intentional with everything. She wanted the role and she got it, and she was like, all right, well, let me just do everything that I can to make sure that I stay here in the top. And I felt like it was warranted. So yeah. Good job, Viv.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I think also when you just have that high percentage of screen time, like you have more opportunities to show, you know, what you can do. Yeah, and to play. Exactly. So I think that there's a reason, you know, for that also, that role just being a little bit more meatier. And so the Vivian got a little bit of boost from that. So Shea is the next queen that we see introduced. So she plays the straight man. And like as soon as Shea took this role, I was like, oh, Shea.
Yeah.
I feel like, isn't this what she did? She did in a previous acting challenge as well. Some reason I feel like she consistently gets stuck with like the straight man character. Yeah. And it's always fine.
She needs to fight to be Black China again. I don't know what you're doing.
Yes.
Like it just wasn't I feel like someone, I don't know where I saw it. I don't know if it was on YouTube or some comment section somewhere was like, I think it was on Twitter, actually. Someone had clipped the part of the Untucked episode where she was impersonating Monet's walk. And someone commented, like, it's so nice to see Shea, you know, be silly and goofy as opposed to, like, the prim and proper business, no nonsense Shea that we've been getting. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I feel like she, from the minute that she walked into the workroom and she feels like she has something to prove. She wants to be that winner that wins again, because a lot of people have said, oh, well, All Stars 5 was handed to her, which
I agree.
So I mean, I feel like this acting challenge just didn't give her the space to, you know, be goofy, be a little bit more out there, and show a little bit more comedy and personality, because she's got great personality. We all love Shea. Shea is wonderful. Yeah. And even if All Stars 5 was handed to her, she's a great drag queen. Like, she probably still could have won anyway. So, I think that this role just did not serve that purpose for her.
Here's the thing. I think if you look at the grand scheme of everybody else, she did do the second best job. But the point is that her role didn't stand out in the way that some of the sillier characters did.
Yeah.
If it weren't for her, this would have fallen off the rails so much quicker than I feel like it already did. And I just really, I actually genuinely thought between her performance and the runway, she was my other top 2 person. But there was no way they were going to do that for her when you had the Rajas and the Monets and the Jinxes, like kind of just having that little extra characterization. I really feel like Trinity did herself a disservice by giving herself 2 lines. Like, I don't know why she did that to herself. It would have been so much better to see Shea take on a small role that she could overact the hell out of and stand out that way rather than being on screen consistently and being quote unquote the straight background kind of character. Even if like the plot is supposed to be about her to a certain extent, it's really not. It's about all these ridiculous characters in relation to her. I feel like Trinity could have pushed herself to be the straight man character because she's always like the dumb character. And it would have been really great to see the two of them switch their roles, because we do know there's a history on the show of like the small role of upstaging everybody else does win a lot. And I feel like Shea has the silliness in her to do it, but we just haven't seen it that much.
Yeah, I'm thinking of other examples of like when Shea is being really fun, like at the beginning of this episode when she's talking about the math ain't mathin', right? Of like, my chances don't look very good. Like that was all just really funny and really entertaining. And to be able to capture that side, I think would have been enjoyable. But yeah, it's tough with the straight man role. Like it's just so hard to stand out. Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like she just did not get a proper Katie Heron arc. Like if as the Mean Girls expert, I just feel like I wanted to see a little bit more corruption of her character. If she's coming in and being the Katie Heron and getting introduced to Evie and Jinx and Trinity, I need her to like want to be in good with them, be on their side, not observe them and think everyone's crazy. That wasn't Katie to me. That was just a new girl that was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, and if you're gonna do that, that can be funny if you're gonna do that, but there just wasn't enough time or screen time.
Right. Okay, so then the next 3 are Evie, Jinx, and Trinity. So these are the 3 nice girls, I think was their name. So Evie probably had the biggest role out of all of them as like the main Regina George character. I felt like she played the same character that she did from the Get Out skit that they did. It was the same voice. It was the same character.
Yeah.
So that's Evie's one acting character, apparently.
No. She is 2. She has this girl, and then she has the boogeyman.
Yes, of course.
Big bad wolf guy. But I agree. Like Evie, in a normal season, this would stand out and be fine. But when you're up against some other people who are just really good actors, there's a type of acting that she does, and some of the other queens too. I would say that Jada did it in this as well, which is like, and Raja I also think does this, which is like, you're not really acting, you're just canned. Like, yeah, it's camp.
I'm acting.
I'm acting. Which, again, this is RuPaul's Drag Race. It's supposed to be ridiculous and campy. It's not supposed to be, although they all kept saying Oscar worthy. And I'm like, y'all need to get that out of your vocabulary for this episode and for Drag Race. And there's not often times where I say, ooh, this person could go on Broadway or in a major motion picture.
If there was a category for thinking that you could have won an Oscar,
the winner goes to this cast. Delusion. Convince yourself. But yeah, I don't know how to describe it. So I just find that style of acting myself is kind of being like, it's exhausting to watch when there's not levels, when and that's where I feel like Janixa could really help them out, was figuring out, just like in music, when you have different dynamics that you have to hit, otherwise it just sounds the same note. Even when it's like a ridiculous piece of music or a loud piece of music or something like that. There's still levels. The same thing can happen with acting. And I felt like the biggest issue with all three of the nice girls, besides maybe Jinx, was that there weren't levels. It was just consistently quote unquote monotone with whatever their character was. And there wasn't
Right.
anything to really push these queens to find the ridiculousness in the low notes as well as the high notes in all their performances. And if you can do that, then the camp comes through as true camp. It doesn't
Mhm.
come off as bad acting. You know what I mean?
I think for me, it was the Mean Girls of it all that was missing because,
Yeah.
again, I was like, if you're going to do a parody, I want to see the Regina George copy.
Mhm.
I mean, again, you don't have to copy exactly, but, it's this very like, I'm going to be somewhat nice to you or appear to be nice to you, but it's like a lot of subtle digs and that kind of
Mhm.
thing.
So you
And
agree? You
so
think
you
you're really
agree. You
pretty?
think you're really pretty. This is the ugliest effing skirt I've ever seen. So like that, and that's the thing. That's more what I wanted instead of this like I wouldn't even describe it as ditzy, but I don't know. I don't know how to describe what Evie did. It didn't work for me.
Yeah.
It didn't work. And
I
then yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna change the subject. You go.
I think the one thing that popped up in my head instantly whenever Evie had that moment with Vivian, I was like, oh, this can be the principal scene when Regina
Mhm.
goes and snitches on, the other
The burn
girls
book.
about the
Yep.
burn
Yep.
book, and then pretends to cry and is like, oh,
Mhm.
fat whore. Oh, like all of that. Like I was like, oh my god, that you can do that and snitch on the other teacher, but like, where was that dramaturgy,
Mhm.
Janixa? Come on, I know you're a Mean Girls fan. Everybody's a Mean Girls fan, but it just didn't happen.
And I think that same critique applies to the other two as well, to
Yeah.
Jinx
Yes.
and to Trinity. So look, I'm not gonna critique Jinx for going for it. Like Beth, you
No.
mentioned this. Like she took a risk. She tried to do something very like intense in a way to stand out. It didn't work. It just didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense. I was very confused. And then when the judges were giving the critiques of like, oh my gosh, as soon as you came out with that vocal fry, I knew exactly who you were. Like, I'm sorry, who?
Yeah.
I know. I
Well,
mean, then they
inform us,
played
please.
the name of her, or like they played the clip of Jinx saying her character's name, which was actually really funny. I love that little editing moment.
That was
Um,
good. A nice
but
little shady moment. We knew who you were because I said my name.
yeah, exactly. I don't know. I didn't laugh. I didn't think it was funny. It didn't work. It didn't fit. And then Trinity, I guess, did the best. If I had to choose, I say it did the best. But that's just because I think her character was much more simple.
Yeah.
And so because you're not trying to do too much, you're just trying to be this like giggly, happy, dumb one, but not enough Karen. You know?
No.
Mm-mm.
It was
Didn't work.
bad. I just wish that they'd been given the instruction, literally act like Russian wieners, act like Karen, act like Regina, like let's do that. Like that would have been so much better because I feel like I understand like why you're trying to go for something Jinx with the vocal fry. But like there's a lot of things that you can do with this voice that Gretchen Wieners has. And that would have made it so much better. I'm a shopaholic and blah 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 blah. Like there's so much more that you can do with that. And with like the Karen Smith thing, like I would honestly, I do think that Trinity, like, there's not really much more you can do with that role than what Trinity
Right.
did. Once they told her you delight in being dumb, when RuPaul gave her, that was the best piece of direction
I agree.
like that was given. And I just completely agree that once she did that and she was like, my parents have to pay extra tuition.
Yeah, that was
like
funny. I
I
did
was like,
chuckle at
okay,
that. That was funny.
that's better. That's better.
Okay, next we have Monet, who plays the cool art teacher. And
Cool teacher.
honestly, the cool teacher alert. The funniest thing was the joke about her bald cap that she improvised. That was the funniest part for me of the whole thing, if I'm being honest. I mean, Monet did fine. Again, got the direction to change her voice, which I thought also was a good suggestion. It's just the writing. I just think the writing wasn't there.
It was
Yeah.
also clearly they were going to try to set up that her name was Mistletoe because it's all Christmas, and then the fact that her name was Camel Toe, like that made me laugh because it was so poorly written. Like there were other ways to try to get there. Like even if she was like, "Call me by your my first name," and then if Shay's character, who's still like incredulous about this idea of the school, was like, "What, missile?" She's like, "Camel." That would have been even better, I think, to try to set up what they're trying to go for. But just like missing beats like that in the script were just really what brought down everything. I thought Monet, God, Beth, Monet did well with what she had, but again, her was just one note, and I'm just gonna talk like this, and I'm a cool teacher, and da 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 da. Like there weren't levels really written in for her to be able to do. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like once again, just missing a little bit of that Amy Poehler flair to it. Like even the line about like, oh, why I do want a little bit, because if you do it, like I just didn't get it.
Yes.
So I just feel like I don't know, maybe we just didn't get the right take, because I don't know. But I mean, I feel like she did what I felt like she really tried to go there. But you know, I do also think that Monet can sometimes do the little acting voice thing too.
Oh yeah.
Where we've seen
Definitely.
her behave similarly in other acting roles. So and it's like specifically in my brain now because I just recently rewatched All Stars 4, so I've seen it. But yeah, I mean, she did what she could. She did.
Yeah. Did what she could. Okay, and then Jada and Raja are the last two to talk about, and they are best friends. Jada is the nerd, and Raja is the goth girl. And
yeah, like
ultimately,
is this like who is? So Jada's obviously, or Raja's supposed to be
Janice. I think that Jada's supposed to be Damien, but like that's not how I would describe Damien at all. Yeah, exactly. No. I think that they were just like, what's a general person who's normally outcasted, and because the whole point that he was an outcast was because he was gay, like we're a whole gay show, so we can't do that. So let's say that they're a nerd. Like
no,
I don't know.
Should have been straight. He's too straight to function.
Oh my God. Especially at Christmas, the gayest holiday of all time.
Except for Halloween.
I mean, true.
Yeah, Halloween is becoming increasingly more gay over the years.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. I don't even know what to make. Like maybe it's because I am a nerd, but when they were like, "Oh my God, when you like pushed your glasses up," I was like, "That's the positive critique you're gonna give her? Like she's a nerd to it, like with her glasses."
I do feel like overall this episode was just a little bit like filler queen. Like it was just there was a lot. I mean, the challenge itself was long.
Yes.
The judges' critiques were sort of like very repetitive and very empty. I just felt like everything this entire time.
It was a vapid challenge.
Yeah, this was a bit of a throwaway week, which is sad because it's like Raja's first win. So.
It's giving filler week.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't know. When it came to Jada, I liked that she was in character and reacting to things around her. That's acting. But she, as we said, she had the acting voice going on, whatever. But then you had Raja, who I understand the character she was going for, but she, like, I don't agree with her winning this challenge purely because she did not know how to say a line. Like the inflection was weird every single time she spoke. I still like it's still driving me crazy that it was, "Oh, come all ye faithful." And I was like, that's not how it's like, "Oh, come all ye faithful," or something like that, but not, "Oh, come all ye." Like, why are you saying ye as like the one that's like accented? It was just so weird that none of that was being like directed, that from what we could see. I don't know. I love that the way that she dressed and like her kind of eye roll situation, but her and Jada both did eye rolls, and I don't know. I just felt like there was such a lack of directing that we saw for the two of them. So who knows? They probably did get a lot of direction, but I feel like there were things that could have been coordinated if they're supposed to be best friends. There are things that, that should be opposite of what we're seeing from the nice girls that we didn't really get to see. We just saw them all just kind of being bitchy girls, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, Rue did say this came to her in an ayahuasca dream. Like, honestly, maybe it was also written there as well, because
Yeah.
so the other thing that popped in my head was the musical
Mhm.
line, like how they had the little like jukebox thing that they were
Boombox, yeah.
boombox they were carrying around, and then would do RuPaul songs every once in a while, and then there was the repeated joke of, this isn't a musical. Is
And I was
that a
like,
thing? Is that from
okay.
thing? Is
Mean
that a
Girls
reference?
is a musical now on Broadway, I think.
And
That's what
that's
I
supposed to be the reference?
Ah.
I
that's what
see.
I assumed was the reference. I could be wrong.
Well, because you know how they do Jingle Bell Rock and Mean Girls. So I thought, like, when I first saw, they were in the outfits also, right? But I was like, oh, it's Christmas School for Girls. Oh, but that makes sense. Or Santa School for Girls. But then when they had the boombox at first, I was like, oh, they're gonna do Jingle Bell Rock. And then it was like, no, we're gonna do Rue songs. just like a little subtle plug for Rue's music, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't.
It would have been funny though if they had done a little bit more of like the actual Jingle Bell Rock choreography from Mean Girls, but to Hey Sis, It's Christmas. That
Yeah.
I actually would have found funny because
Well,
it's
Yeah.
two very different tempos.
The
Okay.
thigh slap was funny, yeah.
So that's the thing, is that because they did it twice, right? They did it twice.
Mm-hmm.
Rule of threes in comedy: you do it
Yep.
3 times. Okay, you're gonna do it then just do it once and do what Beth's suggesting. It just felt like at every point, I really genuinely wish I could be more positive about this. It just felt like there were so many missed opportunities and bad decisions at every step of the way,
Yeah.
that made for just honestly a boring product.
Yeah.
And I have to say this too. I know we're not talking about the runways at this point, but the theme and the runways themselves, I would say for the most part, was kind of underwhelming. And so I just found this to be just a generally overwhelming or underwhelming, not overwhelming, completely not overwhelming, a very underwhelming episode altogether. But if this is the weakest episode out of the bunch, it's still a fantastic season.
Well, let's talk about the runways. So I actually thought that, for me, I love it. So Nitty Nitty Bang Bang was the name of the runway. I thought that was actually very creative for them to do something that is like knit themed. So for me, that was, and it was exciting to see how all of the queens interpreted it. And I kind of felt like maybe it's like Christmassy because it's like cold. So you're all you got your knits,
your chair
on.
knitting, and
by the fire with chestnuts,
hot cocos.
I don't know.
No,
I kind of fit for me.
I should say it's not that I don't think this was an interesting concept for a runway, and I did appreciate how different people interpreted it. I just felt like there weren't too many standout outfits that I was like, oh my gosh, wow, that I'm going to be thinking about for a long time, versus some of these other runways, like themes and just in general. Like the Raja got praised, and I'm like, this is the 3rd time she's worn this outfit. Like, I don't know, like she's yet another warrior with something slinking off of her. Jinx looks exactly the same as her other run. Like, I'm just kind of getting to a point where I'm like, okay, it's just knit in some capacity, you know?
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, your previous runway, but make it knit.
Yeah, I mean, if that was it, then fine. Also, I kind of wish that somebody would just do like a Chitty Chitty Bang Bang inspired outfit that was knit, because that would have been amazing. If that was like, if they're given the actual title of what the runway would be, rather than a description of things they should bring, that'd be amazing.
I think they probably just got knit, right? As like a theme,
knit.
Or like yarn.
Knit your shit, bitch.
Yeah.
Knit your shit.
Yes. Okay, so were there any, so Beth, you're saying, okay, no outfits that stood out to you. Aman, what about you?
Well, I love sort of like the Mean Girls connection with Shea's look. She sort of embodied a garment from the Belly tribe, which makes an appearance in Mean Girls. This is the tribal thoughts of the Belly tribe. Does that mean anything to you?
No.
Who are you? So I liked that connection. I did think that she looked stunning, and I think Rue said that this look would go down in Drag Race history, and I tend to agree. And I was listening to, I think, Bob and Monet a couple of weeks ago, and they talked about how they feel like there should be a drag race museum. And I was like, I don't know about that. I think it's a little, I mean, the show hasn't been around that long yet. Like, I feel like you give it a few more years, then we could talk about a museum. But then I was like, you know what? Why? Why do you need to wait to put things into a museum? So I'm starting to feel like some of these more iconic looks, like, I don't know, maybe someone should start a museum and they start to, showcase some of the most, and it doesn't even have to be just drag race. It could be like just drag period.
Sure.
Some really iconic drag looks. So yeah, I really like Shea's. I thought that the Viv's was it was beautiful, but it was just a little bit too one note. Like it was just a beautifully knit, white.
It was a
bathrobe. Yeah,
it was a bathrobe.
Yeah.
I don't care who's talking. They're like, it was this beautiful gown. I'm like, it was a beautiful long bathrobe. That's what it was.
If there was like some like gold in it, or something like that,
yeah,
I would have been like, ooh, yeah. But yeah, it was just a little bit of anything. But I did love Evie's. She was looking like
Evie's was awesome.
Evie's was really good.
Looking like the abominable carpet monster. I don't know, like just something. I don't know. I just loved it. I loved the whole headpiece, and she made the whole thing, and the makeup was just lovely. The braids going down, just the shag carpeting of it all. It's very, very Evie, and I think she made that. She said she spent like 5 months on it. Like so.
And like hand dyed the wig and all of that. Her makeup here is stunning. I mean, they talked a little bit in Untucked, her and the Viv, I think, of like Viv maybe gave her some tips or something called, blending. But it's the eye makeup, and then also to have her lips match the hair, the cornrows, like just. I thought it was just such like a cool effect. And then of course the outfit itself is just gorgeous.
I felt very gorgeous. I loved the concept and inspiration of Shea's, and I thought that the execution was interesting, but I wasn't like blown away by Shea's outfit versus something like Evie's that I know she spent so much time on. The inspiration and execution are both interesting. Like Evie's for me was definitely my favorite outfit. I felt like the colors were beautiful. It was unexpected, and that was fine. When I say that this doesn't stand out, I'm not talking about like the individual outfit. I just mean generally speaking,
the runway
like
category.
The runway category is something that, like, in theory, is going to be something like, oh, that's interesting. I can't wait to see how people interpret it. And there were definitely different interpretations of this that were cool. I just generally felt underwhelmed by everything. Evie's is the notable exception. Even the people who I was like, I can tell that this is supposed to be amazing, but I'm just still underwhelmed. Like I was underwhelmed by the Vivians. I was underwhelmed by parts of Shea's. Like I like the inspiration, and I think that she's absolutely gorgeous with that bald cap and just everything. There were elements of that I loved, but everything together I just didn't feel like flowed well. Like I felt it was weird that she had a flannel poncho like with all of that. Just little things like that. And I thought like Monet's was cool because it goes with like what we expect Monet to wear, with like a high-waisted panty to show off that ass, and like a halter top kind of thing with that jacket. Like that was very Monet. And I loved that.
Very Brooklyn.
But I was at the same time, I was just kind of like, but I've seen this before, but now it's just knit. Like, you know what I mean? Like I just felt like for a lot of people it was, I've seen this before. Now it's knit.
I think that's why I liked it. Like I liked the mixing of, this sort of style of outfit, especially the puffy jacket, but make it knit. I'm a huge fan of mixing things that on paper shouldn't go together, but then when you see it, you're like, oh, that's really cool. I really liked this. So
I love the bow on her hair. The fact that the bow was also knit. If it hadn't been, or if it wasn't there, I don't think it would have pulled everything together as well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and that's the thing, is that I think like each of the details of that were knit, and also to have the crop top be still knit, but just a secondary player because you want the focus to be on the other key pieces. I thought that was a smart choice as well, to not have it be the same colors as everything
else. The little yarn balls on the boots were cute too.
Yeah, I felt. I mean, at first I did feel like it was a little too simple, but then I was like, I think that she had an idea, she had a concept, and she went for it. I just think that maybe in comparison with some of the others, I was like, oh, I think maybe it just wasn't as ostentatious. But I agree, Liana. I did like the mixing and matching of it as well. I did like Jada's a lot. Just referencing the big comfy couch. I felt like that was just so just cute. And RuPaul said something that I agree with. He was like, once you just put 2 Afro puffs on the side, it just takes me there. I was like, yeah, I don't know. It just reminds me of like the girls that I would see when I was growing up with their hair. So it just like hit something nostalgic for me, in more ways than one. And I just love like the sort of like the shawl with the knitting needle still stuck in them. I just thought it was just so cute. And we know that Jada makes everything that she does. So it's just like knowing that it came from her, it's just like, oh wow, that just gives you like a little bit of extra impressed energy. As far as Raja, the look is great. And I'm glad that you said something about it sort of like being a gladiator type thing again, because I didn't even think about that until you said it. Yeah, kind of similar to what she's done on this runway before. But my biggest like nitpick would be, I just felt like there were the other medium, like the gold armor medium, which is a bit too pronounced. It's just up and down the boot, and then you have these huge bangles, and then the mask. I was like, that feels like it's not enough knit for me. Like, I understand that everything else is like gold plated knit. I understand that. But I felt like the 2 mediums it was too 50-50. Whereas I feel like if you're going to include those armor elements, make it 75-25 or 80-20 as opposed to 50-50.
The neck piece probably could have been knit. The ball in her hand probably could have been knit, right? So if you're thinking about ways,
like a ball of yarn,
yeah, a little ball, yeah, exactly, something like that. So then it still sort of meets the criteria. But this is something like Raja, at least on Fashion Photo Review, has talked a little bit about a more liberal interpretation of some of the themes. So I think that this is sort of her doing that. But yes, it is gladiator once again. I mean, she looks good, but yeah, it's a little, a little samey, but it's cool.
I'm gonna now be a hypocrite. Are we ready?
Yes.
I miss her gray hair.
No.
No, I think she looks fine with the red hair, but I did have a moment where I was like, oh, she's not gray.
She's going for the reveal.
That's right,
the last look that I just want to touch on is Trinity's, because I didn't understand if a fan made the whole thing or just like the stuffed animal part of it. But either way, that's so cool. I know Evie did the same thing for the finale of her season of season 11 during one of the lip syncs. It was the first lip sync look that she had that had all of those like stuffed animals tied over. I think that was a fan sketch or something like that. So that was just a neat, cute little story. And I actually really like the leopard print tied in with the purple. I think and the lip color just looks really good on her.
I agree. I also think that as stupid as her hair is, I also love it at the same time.
Okay, I loved it on the runway, and the more I saw it in Untucked, I was like, I hate this. I hate this.
It's a very different lighting in Untucked than it is on the stage. When I'm looking at this on the stage right now, I'm like, this actually looks really cool. If I saw this in real life at a club, I'd probably be like, girl. Or like a drag con with like the homophobic lighting of like a exposition center or whatever.
Oh man. Okay. So we get our 2 winners, the Vivienne and Raja, which we've already discussed their performances. And so they're going to lip sync to Super Freak by Rick James. They picked a song from Raja's era, so she would be prepared this time. And honestly, I felt like Raja really turned it.
I thought she did too. Whereas the other time I felt like she kind of rolled over and just like died. Here I felt like she really shined and she was in it and she hit every note and it was just fun to watch her. She brought a good energy. Felt like the Vivienne was like trying too hard to do gigs. I definitely commend the Vivienne for saving a really bad failed attempt into like a saved moment. I don't know.
Well, because she poured water on herself, so then she's all slippery.
Honestly, I would have preferred if she would have just like let herself fall. I would have thought that was hilarious. Like just fall and then like get up and be like, she's a super freak. So like I was
or just like started doing like a really bad like break dancing on the ground.
Yeah,
like trying to like flop.
And yeah, I mean she, I mean, obviously these queens are very comfortable with one another, so I feel like, if you're not gonna care, then I'm not gonna care. But I was like, oh, you licked her, like you're gonna lick her, but Raja, she was like, oh wow, like she just like kind of like went with it, and I'm like, I'm always happy that when queens that sort of like get attacked by the other queen are able to like roll with it and make it a part of their performance as opposed to like just letting the other queen sort of just like manhandle them literally.
Yeah.
So yeah, I enjoyed that.
I saw.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I saw it described on Reddit, Viv's performance as like button mashing, like a button mashing lip sync. And now I can't get that out of my head of just like pour the water, do the flip, lick the armpit. Like you're just doing all of the things because you're not quite sure exactly what you should do. And that's now how I'm going to describe every lip sync that I feel.
That is amazing because hello, I'm Beth Dixon and I'm a chronic like Mortal Kombat button masher just to try to figure out how to do combos. I'm just going,
exactly.
There should totally be like a little mobile game, like a little Drag Race lip sync mobile game where you can just like hit certain buttons. It's like death drop, dip, flip, like comedy route, drama route. Like
we need to make this.
Quick, edit this out of the podcast.
Yeah.
We need to save this idea.
Scott.
Developers. we need you. We need you. We have a brilliant idea.
Oh my God, that's actually epic. We can sell it on Steam and then make it cross-platform, and then you can battle people from all over. Just
yes.
So good. Okay, good. All right, so ultimately, Raja has the ability to block as she's the winner of the lip sync, and so she chooses Jada, which I thought was an interesting choice. Now, we know Jada has the most stars with 3 out of all of the queens. So from that perspective, okay, makes sense. But Jada and Raja are the only 2 who hadn't been blocked up until that point. And so Raja is essentially leaving herself as the one unblocked option. I don't know. Strategically, does that make sense? And also with Jada having 3, Jada even in this episode says, well, I'm probably going to make the finale, so don't bother blocking me, which is something that we've actually talked about as a possible strategy. So it was funny to see Jada mention that here. So I don't know if Raja made the right call.
I really think Raja should have looked around and said either block someone with 2 stars so they don't get up to that 3 threshold, or just said, I'm going to keep Shea and Monet down where they are. Because the other thing that I thought was the one thing I do think was interesting about the editing of this episode is that we were set up in the beginning to think that Monet and Shea were going to win this because they were the ones that were like, oh, wow, I really feel like I'm in last place and we started shining and now we don't. And we're 2 of the people, like there's 4 people who only have 1 star. And we ended up getting 2 people who had 1 star who win their second star, but it's not Monet and Shea. And so I feel like this is a moment for them to sit back and go, we need to keep those 2 where they are and battle it out between those of us who have 2 stars, or look around and go, who's more likely to get another star? Let's block them so that they don't get up to that level. And I stand a chance of getting that second star. Because if you're Vivian or Raja, I got to keep this momentum up.
And I think you just had an acting challenge, so it's most likely gonna not be something comedy acting, which we know that it's gonna be a dance challenge, like a TikTok viral dance challenge
which
thing.
is Shea's jam,
right?
And Monet.
So yeah, and it's interesting because now we're looking at, so Jada, as I mentioned, has 3. Monet and Shea both have 1 star and everybody else has 2. So, and we have 3 episodes?
3 episodes
that
left.
They can get stars.
I can even, I guess the finale counts then if they're including the finale.
Well, the finale's July 29th. So we have 3 more. You have the 8th, the 15th, and the 22nd for episodes for challenges.
Okay.
And then the finale.
Okay.
So there's only 3 more challenges where you can get stars. I have to imagine there's a steal a star or another we're going to give more stars out.
I agree.
That has to happen. I would also say it's just really interesting to me that like people don't want to add a little bit more drama to this as well, because this is a very kumbaya season, which we understand and why that's the case. And for the most part, it's added really positive things. At this point in the competition, tell me if you had blocked Monet, who has 1 star and had already been blocked and is already feeling like trying to be super strategic and all these things, that we wouldn't be getting some explosive arguments next week. How great would that have been?
Yeah,
I'm on team mess right now. I want a little bit more mess.
A little bit more.
I agree. I felt like it might have been like a bit of a fan thing where Raja was like, I don't want to block Monet and Shea when they're already down there. Like it would just feel like we're just kicking them while they're down. And I don't want the fans to feel some type of way. I mean, we already experienced a little bit of craziness with the fans this week or this season with the whole fashion photo review thing where they annoyed the hell out of Violet, and Violet somehow, which I still kind of feel a little bit of way about. Like, I feel like Violet shouldn't have that much power to get them to pull that from YouTube. Like, if on one hand, like, I understand the fans are ridiculous and fans do definitely need to be taught a lesson, but on the other hand, I'm like, a piece of this does come with the territory, so I feel like you should not have say so to just be like, all right, well, we're just gonna make you pay for it now. Like, Violet, who are you? If that's all true, this is all alleged. It might not have anything to do with Violet, but okay. Anyway, that's a
also
whole
Violet. Your whole thing is that you're a bitch. Like that's literally like an actual bitch, not like puts one on as a character, and you own that, and that's fine as long as you own it. But like, you got to be able to take it back if you're going to be bitchy about people who paved the way for you. Sorry about it.
Another funny, unrelated Violet moment is on Instagram. She posted a photo of her tour dates for Canada, her Canada tour, and her name's spelled wrong on the promo, which was hilarious to me.
Which one, Violet or Chachki?
I can't remember.
I hope it's Chachki.
I think it's Chachki.
I would imagine that's why, but imagine if somebody spelled Violet wrong.
Yeah.
Violence Chachki.
Violent Chachki.
Violence Chachki. Look, the thing is that Jada has 3. Okay. So like if you just look at it from a super simplistic view, Raja made the right call. But I think when you start to think of some of the nuances of like what the optimal strategy is, if we pull a tear in here and we really think about it, you know, then maybe a different strategy.
Because you're just making it easier for people to tie at this point. Like, if you give her an obvious advantage and like maybe let's say she does win next week and she's at 4, well then sure. At that point it's like, okay, she's going to be in the finale. But now you at least are able to you're able to broaden the playing field as opposed to now multiple people can get to 3. And then like what happens then? So
yeah, I have no idea. I think we're going to see multiple stars or giving stars or stealing stars or something that will help to like differentiate between the ties so that we won't end up with so many at the end. But who knows?
It will be interesting to see next week if Monet and Shea win. Then everybody's at 2 except for Jada, who's blocked at 3. So that'll be interesting because then it is just, the producers are going to be like, all right, next week we give out 7 stars. And, go from there. But I also think, they're not the only 2. Like I could see Evie really pulling out something here too. I mean, she's an incredible lip syncer and very physical. And I think that it'll be interesting to see who can really pull it out. But I really feel like those are the 3 to look at for next week.
Okay, so before we close out here, is there anything from Untucked? They were really feeling the lack of drama. They're like, can you guys do impressions of other queens because you guys are so boring in Untucked?
Also, Janixa didn't come backstage, which I believe is because she was the director, so they already had time to talk with her. But I did think that was an interesting choice. They were like, we're going to play a game instead of having the guest judge come backstage.
Well, at first I was like, I thought it was going to be the queens in the room. And then when it was Silky and Cameron Michaels,
Banji, Trixie. Yeah.
Like, okay. So just like, I guess your top queens or who you consider to be your most famous queens, you're going to throw in there as well. But Shea, the moment for me that made it was Shea's Monet walk and Monet being like, is this real? Is this real? All the cameramen are laughing. It must be real. That was a really good little behind the scenes moment too. That made me laugh. Funnier than the whole challenge.
She nailed it. That's definitely how she be walking.
All right. Next week, we'll be back to talk about social media dance challenge competition, which I assume TikToks. They're going to be like TikToks of some type.
I would assume, yeah.
And I have no idea what it's going to look like. I don't know if they're competing individually or in groups or what the case is, but we will be here to break all of that down. Thank you both for joining me on this fun adventure and helping me figure out what was wrong. Everything with the challenge.
It was just everything.
It was just, what's wrong with this? Everything. All right, Aman, where can people find you on social media? What do you have going on?
You can follow me everywhere at Aman Adwin. I just sat down with Rob and Taryn to go over some of the best fights, most fun fights from all seasons of Big Brother, and it was a fun ride down memory lane. So if you haven't checked that out, make sure you check out the main feed.
You lip syncing the fights was my favorite part.
It was so good.
Yeah, I'm thinking about actually doing another video doing the magna cum laude fight. So
You should.
I'm excited. I'm really excited. I haven't done one in a while, and now I'm like feeling it again. I'm like, ooh,
Yes.
Inspired.
let me do it.
All right, Beth, what about you?
You can find me everywhere at AugustaWind11. You can also catch up on my podcast that I did with Hey Pod Friends last week, or Pod Friends, but the Twitter handle for them is Hey Pod Friends. So go follow them as well. For Matt Scott, I'm also on my weekly meltdown. We're going to be covering Big Brother as well, and Hot Mess Moments with Dylan Zahner.
All right. And you can find me on Twitter at Liana RHAP. I'm going to be on the 90 Day Fiancé podcast this week. And I was also on RHAP. We did the hot takeoff bracket. We did a Zoom webinar style. So we had an audience and they could vote on things. It was an absolutely silly, fun time. So I highly recommend checking that out. I was also on Crime Scene with Mari and Sarah. We talked about the HBO documentary, The Janes, which is about a group of women in the late 60s, early 70s, providing safe abortions before Roe v. Wade was legal in Chicago. And actually they get busted and criminalized or charged. But then because Roe v. Wade passes, they're let free. Sorry, spoiler alert. That was really fun. And also very terrifying. So go check that out if you are interested. And that does it for us this week. If you want to try to help out the pod, you can leave ratings and reviews on iTunes. Go to robhaswebsite.com/drag race to find all of that. And I have one final plug, and that is for the Purple Pants podcast. Aman, you can help me out with that because on the Purple Pants podcast, it's Bryce doing his thing and has the casualty segment with Aman, which is always one of my favorites.
Yes.
But he has a lot of other stuff going on as well. So you should definitely check that out.
I think he also gave up his platform to a few women this past week to talk about Roe v. Wade. So
yes, which I highly, highly, highly recommend checking that out. So Bryce is just absolutely amazing, and everyone should be listening to the Purple Pants podcast.
Yep.
Highly recommend. Okay, that does it. We are out of here. Thank you, Scott St. Pierre, for all your help. Thank you,
Charge
Scott.
the batteries.
Yeah, I know. I feel like Rue. Who looked stunning, by the way, this week.
Yeah, that was a good look.
Rue looked amazing. The wig was just to die for.
I did think you meant Scott looked stunning this week. And I was like, I'm sure he did, but I didn't know what you were talking about.
I meant Rue, but Scott also. Thanks for your help behind the scenes, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.